Andy, Gareth, Ollie, time to run through the Canadian Premier League teams and what change these guys would like to see them make in the offseason. So my job here is pretty simple. I'm just shouting out teams here, and I'm going to begin with Halifax Wanderers and you, Gareth. What do you think they should do?
This segment's going to go well, so we're going to piss everyone off across this country. Running through the CPL with my woes. That's what we'll call this one. Halifax, they need someone that can put the ball in the back of the net, not named João Morelli. Like, after him, there was no secondary scoring, no tertiary. That's third, right? Tertiary? Yeah. There was no scoring other than Morelli.
Don't ask us.
So, I mean, that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on their list, as well as maybe a new travel coordinator with a regular schedule. Just hope that they can be a little bit better. They have difficult travel all season long, and that needs to be coordinated accordingly.
Yeah, like the attack has got to be completely revamped one way or another, right? And the tricky thing for them is that they don't have, you know, we mentioned this a couple of times, they don't have that kind of source of local players like on the Ontario teams, the Albertan teams. They try and dip into Quebec a little bit, but they're competing with the rest of the league there. So it's difficult to find the kind of talent you need, I think, to compete. So they do lean on the internationals. You only have a finite amount of international spots. And so when you get that kind of performance out of Akeem Garcia, who's one of those, you know, Alex Marshall didn't really perform to expectations either, puts you in a really difficult spot pretty quickly because you just don't have the quality in the attacking third of the pitch. So they got to find some solutions there, and that'll mean big decisions on the likes of Garcia.
All right, take me through what you think Atletico Ottawa should do.
Well, it starts with leadership, right? And who's going to be the coach, who's going to be the guy to take it forwards over the next 2 or 3 years. I don't think you can go into next season if you're Atletico Ottawa thinking we're going to be right up there from the beginning as contenders. This has got to be something that progresses over a couple of years now. So is Mista that guy? At this point, I don't know. I would speculate that he's probably not coming back, but I'm not sure on that. And then Marc Dos Santos, obviously, is the name that's out there right now. He's been in Madrid. He's had meetings in Madrid. There is definitely interest there. But again, we'll see if that gets finalized or not. But that's the first thing for them, is you have to pick the person to take them forward and to provide that vision.
The hardest team to evaluate because they haven't had a proper season yet. Like, this season wasn't a proper season. I think that they went into the season thinking they would play one way, and they ended up having to change. And I thought they were better down the stretch. So that tactical identity, if it comes from a new manager, I think that will go a long way. Again, it might sound repetitive, but they're going to need a little bit more in attack. I really rate Malcolm Shaw. I thought he had a great year, very underappreciated in this league. Beyond him, where are the regular creators? Where are the players that can go on and provide that quality in the attacking third? I think that needs to be solved, and I think it can be done so through recruitment.
York United, we already know one big change they're going to make, and that is, of course, bringing in a new head coach. Other than that, or maybe that's what you got there, Wheels, what does York United have to do this offseason?
We'll see what happens in terms of that position, but they certainly need depth. I don't think they had quite enough experience depth in the team. They need their international players to come through, play a bigger role, and again, they need more up top. Like, I think that if they had, some of the players that some of the better teams had, just to go finish chances in the attacking third, they would have been in a better spot. I didn't name just one thing there, but I think it all kind of blends in because I think that can come from your international talent.
Yeah, it's the international players. That's the biggest thing by far. Like, when you get to the end of the season and you've only really got one of those guys, I would say, in Rivero, who's really a contributor. I thought he was, good. But Albrecht, even though he's starting, for me, just wasn't quite there in terms of the level that you'd look for your starting number 9. There was several guys who just couldn't really. Ramirez, Hamilton, Laverne didn't really play any part whatsoever. So that's point number 1 for me. You've got good young Canadians. You've got some good veterans in Zator, Petrasso, guys like that. You need to put some international talent around them. I do think that they will try to bring in Cabrera, Hernandez, and Wallace, who they tried to sign last off-season, had to loan out because of the COVID restrictions getting them in the country. They still want to get those guys in, so we'll see if they're an improvement.
Finalists, runner-up, Forge FC, Ollie. What do they need to do in the off-season to get better?
Use this as fuel, I think. Like, this is a position Forge have never been in before, right? They're coming into a season without the shields under their belts. So how are they going to respond to it is the question for me. Like, I think we see throughout sports and in different leagues that when, a big team like this, a dominant team like this gets knocked off, it can go one of two ways. Either you can lose track and lose sight of things and go off course. I don't think that will happen here. or you use it as motivation, you know, and you finally, you know, you get that punch in the face and you get back up and you come back better. And I think that's what they'll be desperate to do. I don't think in terms of transfers and coaching and all the rest of it, they need to change anything really. If they're still Forge, but they need to come back with that renewed motivation.
So do yoga and meditate. Okay, that's what he wants to see Forge do.
It's very difficult to answer until we see which players they might be losing. Who's going to move on? Like, it's difficult to keep a team like this together, especially a team with some players skewing a little bit older than some of the teams in this league. And I do think that they're just looking for that next young player to come through. Who's it going to be? I think they can probably use another center back in the team as well. Jakovic didn't play. Kurtzen, who knows, you know, if he'll be off or not. So keeping that team together, keeping the core together, maybe adding a center back would probably do them well.
Valor FC, they made a mid-season coaching change, so that was a change that they've already made. But as they head into the offseason, what else do you want to see them do?
They need a healthy Andrew Jean-Baptiste. The fact that he's coming back is a shot in the arm, but he needs to be fit. But beyond Baptiste, they simply need cover. This was a team with all kinds of depth issues as well. And again, experienced players playing a lot of minutes. Fordyce, a lot of minutes. Gallardo. Like, they're going to need to make sure that they address depth, not only at center back, but throughout the team as well. The other De Santos has some work to do there. And look, they both have intriguing recruitment networks, the De Santos brothers. So I think that could mean some interesting things for Valor, but certainly depth.
Yeah, I think they could be a dark horse next season. Like, get the big man back.
Dark horse this season.
Well, you were wrong. Get the big man back in defence. That's obviously point number one, and get him a partner as well, I would say. I don't think it's just him. But, like, you look at the way this team can attack, you know, scoring 4 goals at Cavalry. They showed glimpses of it under Rob Gale, I thought. And then when Dos Santos came in and put Moses Dyer up front, Gallardo just off him, you know, Akio really came into his own. Like, that's an exciting team. I think they can cause problems and score goals, which is, you know, the most difficult thing to do in this league. They just need to solidify at the back, and obviously Jean-Baptiste will be a massive part of that.
All right, what do you want to see the Eddies do?
Back Alan Koch. Like, it's going to take time here. I think, you know, we said coming into this season it's going to be something that takes a couple of years. It might still be a couple of years from now, to be honest, with FC Edmonton. There's not going to be any quick fixes here. The reality is that, you know, in the opening 3 seasons of the CPL, they've fallen behind the pack. On the field and off it, in terms of the way that club is run, things need to be stepped up. I think this guy can do it. I think he's a really good coach who they're fortunate to have. He's built something of a foundation this season, but he needs help. I don't think any coach in the world could go in there right now and win a CPL title. You need to support him, get the right people around him, and start playing catch up to the other teams in this league.
I'm with you. Koch is a very good coach. I think he brings a lot of value to this table. With the new team coming to mainland British Columbia in the not so distant future, I mean, he's from British Columbia. If I'm Edmonton, I want to be able to make sure I create conditions to hold on to him as a coach. But as much as what happens on the field is an issue, what's happening or not happening off the field is an issue. That's why you can't just build a team to win. I think there needs to be some excitement. That is a market that has had football, professional football in that city for quite some time. They need to get the pulse back. They need to get some energy back. So it needs to be an exciting team that can score goals and draw interest back into the Eddies and what that team means in the city. It's been a long history. It's a great soccer city. Bring the excitement back to Edmonton.
So much potential there.
Yeah, there's a ton. Speaking of potential perennial contenders, Cavalry FC, they're always in the conversation. What a dynamic first year that they had. Obviously, in the bubble, Prince Edward Island, they were still competing, made it on to the next round, but not in the final. And this is a team that this year, again, bowed out in the semi. What do they need to do to take them to the next level?
Goals. Joe Mason was the only, like, honestly, it was just watching it this season. At times, their attack was slow and slower. It needs to be quicker. There needs to be some real recruitment adding to that attack. You know, any team under Tommy Wheeldon Jr., they'll be organized, very good defensively, good shape, well-versed, but they simply need more in attack.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, like, they've been in, you know, I discount the Island games because that was a crazy season for them in particular with injuries, yeah. But if you look at the other 2 seasons, they've been in 3 playoff games. They haven't scored from open play and they've lost all 3 games. And so that doesn't read very well, but they've also all been 1-goal games and they have been in those games in the first place, right? So it's getting that balance right between, like, not tearing things up too much and making too many changes and losing what's actually getting you to the playoffs, but trying to identify, okay, how do we become that little bit more creative, that little bit more dangerous when, you know, it matters most and defenses are the tightest and it's most difficult to find space.
Yeah, might need to subtract to then go on and add.
I think so, yeah.
All right, what do the champions need to do? Final team.
Pacific, I think it's about finding new motivation now, right? Like, keep getting better in certain ways. You know, Bustos comes back, young players like Sean Young, I think, will be able to take the next step. But now, you know, this was what they had in their sights all this time, catching Forge, meeting that bar they'd set, winning the North Star Shields. What's next, right? They need to figure out what it is that's going to ignite this team going forwards over the next year, 2 years, and provide that renewed motivation.
They're a young team. I do think they probably need a little bit more depth at fullback positions. If you're going to nitpick, maybe even center back. Samaki McNaughton played a lot of games this year. So it would be across that back line, certainly the best goal-scoring team, the best attacking team, and inevitably the best team in the Canadian Premier League.
Yeah.
But if you're going to bolster that team and improve, I think it's at the back.